Hey yay, it's Kay and I hope you're having a great day yay. It's so cringe. You're not keeping that in. I've always wanted to make a YouTube channel, but never had anything that inspired me enough to actually make a video about it until now, and I have Solo Leveling to thank for it. I'm a big fan of anime, and I've been watching for years.
I watch a lot of movies and read a lot of books.
I've probably seen hundreds and hundreds of anime, and I feel like that makes me qualified to tell you why I think Solo Leveling is mid.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But let me tell you why I really don't think it's that good of an anime. Before we get into that, let me tell you what Solo Leveling is about. So the show is about dungeons and raids. Basically, one day, portals opened up on Earth, causing monsters to pour out of them, and simultaneously, people gained powers to help fight them off. These people with powers are known as hunters, and hunters can rank from E, being the worst, all the way to S, which is absolutely god tier superior, and there are only 7 in Korea at this time. This show takes place in Korea, by the way. That being said, Solo Leveling is about a guy named Sun Jin Woo, aka Hunter Sung, who is known as the worst hunter. He is the weakest of the weak, bottom of the barrel, even among the rank E's. He is the worst hunter, and if he's on your team, you're guaranteed to have pretty much an easy raid. One day, Hunter Sung is assigned to a D rank dungeon, which should be a pretty easy job. But when he gets inside, with some old guy, some hot girl, and a few others that really don't matter, he instantly gets hurt by like this level 1 goblin, really showcasing just how weak this dude is. Like I said, bottom of the barrel. The hot girl, she's the team's healer. Her name is Ju-Yi. She heals him up and they head deeper into the dungeon where they find the boss room. This is the coolest boss in the entire show. The very first boss of the show is the coolest one. It's just gonna get lamer from here. So when they get to the boss room, it's full of all of these statues in a circle, and in the middle is the biggest statue, aka the boss, Smash. So because this is the coolest fight in the entire show, I'm going to be going into it in pretty good detail. There are 13 people in his party, and one of them freaks out and tries to leave, where the statue slaughters him instantly on the spot. Blood everywhere, and the team panics. Okay, side note, this is the most gruesome part of the entire show. It's really setting up to make it look like the entirety of Solo Leveling is going to be this kick-ass, gruesome, bloody show, and that's just not the case at all. Most of the blood happens in these first 2 episodes. It's so bizarre. While Hunter Sung may be weak, he is a pretty smart guy and has some knowledge in that noodle. He recognizes that the main boss is about to attack and yells at the team to
Get down now!
They all duck at the perfect time before the boss uses fucking laser eyes. It's so cool. This is the only time he shows he really has any type of problem solving in the entire show. The rest of the time, he kind of just looks maxes his way through all of the other problems. And I'll show you what I mean later. The group leader loses his arm to the laser, and another guy thinks because he's fast, he can outrun it and make his way through the door before anything happens to him. That is not the case, and he gets instantly eviscerated. It's brutal. Hunter Sung tells everyone how he... What are y'all doing? Hunter Sung explains to everyone how he thinks the boss works. He's assuming that it's some kind of test and they need to pass a test in order to escape. The boss gets up and starts walking towards the party and begins stepping on members of the team. In the panic, Sung actually figures out how to defeat the boss, but loses a leg in the process. After the first phase of the fight, a circle lights up in the middle of the arena and a dais rises in the middle of the circle. Everyone in the party comes to the conclusion that a sacrifice needs to be made, and the group leader, aka Old Man, signed up to be the sacrifice. Oh, this talking making me thirsty. When everyone steps into the circle, statues start walking towards them, causing the team to panic even more, and some people run out the doors that have just freshly opened. And every time someone walks through the door, it closes a little more each time. In the end, the hot girl's legs give out, and so she can't carry Hunter Sung to safety, meaning that he's left behind instead of the group leader as the sacrifice. Here he gets absolutely bodied by the statues. And honestly, I will say, the voice acting during this part...
I get it. I fought tooth and nail to earn my keep, and I got this far.
Chef's kiss. It is really good. The voice actor had bills to pay. He is getting into it. After getting absolutely ass blasted by the statues, they impale him, stake him to the dais, and this is where they kill him. This is where he gets a notification from the system saying, you have completed the secret quest, Courage of the Weak. Your heart will stop in 0.2 seconds if you do not accept. Do you accept? And then the episode ends. And honestly, that was a great hook to the show. I was invested. I really liked Hunter Sung. I liked the ranking system. I liked everything about it. I had no notes, but it's all downhill from here. So the next episode begins, and we are instantly greeted by the system saying congratulations on becoming a player, and Sung wakes up in the hospital. This screen, the system screen, is something only he can see. Something I haven't talked about much until now are guilds. They're ultimately unimportant, and I'll mention them here and there throughout the video, but it's the most boring subplot anyone could ever ask for, so I'm just gonna glaze over it when it's important. So a couple of guild guys come in looking to reevaluate Hunter Sung. They think that he's had a reawakening because he's one of the few people that actually survived this dungeon. When they do the reevaluation, they find that he's still rank E, and so they give up and leave. However, he actually did have a reawakening. It's just that the way that his works is he gets stronger as he levels up, thus the name solo leveling. Pretty quickly, he starts getting these daily training quests. At first, he ignores them, only to find out that there's a penalty for ignoring them, and he gets sent to this penalty zone where he has to fight these large scorpion things. Upon returning from the penalty zone, he realizes that the daily quests are not something he can skip, and he begins his very brief training. He does get rewarded for completing these daily quests. He gets something called full recovery, keys, stats, etc. Normal stuff you'd find in like an RPG game. Episode 3. So after Sung completes one of his daily quests, he gets a key for an instance dungeon. He decides to use it, and here he begins one of his really only training sessions that we see in the entire show. He fights goblins, dogs, random small enemies, and begins his level up journey. All right, that's the end of episode 3. That's all the good episodes in the show. It was good up until now, and it's not that the show is bad. It's just almost good. I'm like a disappointed mom. I'm not angry, I'm disappointed, you know? So episode 4 begins, and Hunter Sung is training in this instance dungeon, right? He's fighting these mobs, and their difficulty level is indicated by white, orange, or red name tags. Red being stronger than you, orange being the same level as you, and white meaning that they are weaker than you or you are above their power level. After a couple of levels, Sung realizes how strong the stats are making him, and he's able to just punch a dog. Here he learns he can pull weapons out of his inventory, and this is actually one of the consistent things that stay throughout the show, and I do like this mechanic. And he continues kicking puppies.
Whoever bumped my dog upside the head with a cartoon hammer, I will find you.
Seriously though, call PETA. These first few episodes that we've been talking about so far have a really, really strong like video game element. But as the show goes on, these video game vibes are dropped, and it's just looks maxing and mewing, and you'll get what I mean later. After beating the mobs in the immediate area, Hunter Sung goes into the boss room where he fights a big snake. Honestly, he wins pretty easily for being so low level, but he wins through the power of determination, I guess. This whole time he's been talking about his motivation to become strong, and I understand wanting to be strong, especially considering he was widely known as the worst hunter. Like, I get wanting to be better than your reputation, but his motivations to becoming strong seem really, really shallow. It's like, hey, why do you want to be strong? Because I don't want to be weak, which relatable, I guess. This is where the show starts getting a little ridiculous. He leaves the dungeon after defeating the snake to find a dungeon break has happened a few blocks over. The hot girl from the first dungeon is there, but she's really shaken up and has pretty bad PTSD over the whole thing that happened a few weeks ago. The boss comes through the gate, and it's supposed to be considered a pretty strong boss. And Hunter Sung decides all of a sudden he's Billy Badass. He picks up a broken sword and throws it at the golem and instantly obliterates it. Like 10 or so hunters were fighting this golem and they couldn't touch it. They weren't doing a lick of damage to this golem, and suddenly Hunter Sung can throw trash at it and it disintegrates. That seems like a huge power jump to me for one training session. Like, look me in my eyes. Look me in my eyes. Tell me that that is not a huge power jump. Like, he was literally training for less than an episode and he took it down in one hit. I just can't get over it. I can't get over it. But anyway, that's the end of the episode on episode 5. Okay, so this next part absolutely sends me into the stratosphere when I watch it. He wakes up on episode 5 and suddenly,
Oh no, he's hot!
his voice is different. When I saw this for the very first time, I literally said out loud,
Who the fuck is that?
I thought maybe we were getting a different character's perspective, but no, it's our boy Hunter Sung, just randomly sexy. He's basically a stage 2 Pokemon. He's in his Charmeleon era right now. What's even crazier about this is basically no one says anything about his sudden transformation. He goes from this little cutie patootie to this Mr. Steal Your Girl in one night. He wakes up and is hot. I cannot stress that enough. And no one says a thing about it. Suddenly the nurses are like,
when did we admit a patient as ripped as that?
but no one says anything about it being him. It's so bizarre. The only person that says anything even remotely close to having a reaction about his new appearance is his sister being like, oh, did you get taller? And that's it. The man literally grew from working out. This man has a different face. This man has a different set of eyes in his head. He's taller. Okay. So after he gets home, he considers which stats he wants to put where, but honestly, this is kind of unimportant because while stats do pop up from time to time in the show, he just becomes him so quickly that where he places the stats really don't matter. He considers how amazing and awesome and hot and relevant he is for a while before ultimately deciding he wants to keep his leveling ability a secret because he doesn't want to be hot and famous, at least not for now. Later that day, he's recruited into a C rank dungeon. They really don't need his help fighting anything. They just want his body to meet the quota. Since he's still an E rank for now, he's put in charge of carrying bags and shovels and general supplies. Here he meets a D rank Nepo baby paladin who is absolutely decked out in the best gear money can buy. I haven't taken the time to learn his name, so he'll just be referred to as Nepo baby going forward. And he's one of the few recurring characters in the show. They go into the dungeon, and here's where they discover they're dealing with insect-type mobs. Ooh, scary. Sung kicks this large ant, and its head pops off, proving how strong he's gotten in just a short amount of time, which we've already seen from him obliterating a golem with trash, but I cannot dwell on that because I'll never finish this video. So they finish off the small bug mobs and start heading towards the boss room, but this is where Sung starts getting the impression that something is up with the party. They don't have a healer with them, and they cut him a very, very sweet deal for the amount of work he's actually doing, so he's getting a little suspicious. On the way, they find hella mana crystals. I mean, hella mana crystals from floor to ceiling, and they think they hit the jackpot. Also, they never get mentioned again in the show, so ultimately it doesn't matter. Ooh, gotta stretch. All this talking making me sore. This is where they find the boss, obviously, because it's the boss room, and the entire party tells Nepo baby and Sung to stay put while they go and get supplies to excavate the crystals. When they leave, they blow up the entrance, intentionally leaving them to die so that way they don't have to split the rewards with the two deadweights. So the spider boss wakes up, attacks, and this is where Sung decides he wants to activate his badassedness and fight the boss solo, even though he has someone there to help. He's just that guy. He's just that cool. He doesn't need the help. So episode 6 starts with Sung getting ready to fight the boss. And something I noticed when I watched it the second time around to make this video is that they do not show the relative power level from Sung to the boss, which is something that they made a point to show like 2 episodes ago. Don't incorporate a factor if you're not going to include it in the show. Whatever. So he starts fighting this spider. He gets this random skill midway through the fight, even though he didn't level up.
A new skill, dash. Perfect. Let's take it for a spin.
Which seems like a cop-out. It takes him 10 minutes to realize he can stab one of its many, many, many eyes and wins. Honestly, it was another pretty easy fight. One thing I don't like about this show is that there's not enough struggle.
It's actually kind of boring.
It takes him a long time to find out something pretty simple, and this is how he defeats a lot of bosses. In the first couple of episodes, they showed him to be extremely competent and smart, but as he levels up, it's like his Unga Bunga brain just makes him more and more stupid, and he just relies on brute force. And I wish there was more of an incorporation of him using his environment and his brain to beat a boss versus being like, oh, I can stab it in the eye, you know? Maybe that's just me being picky though. Anyway, he wins and it's another pretty easy fight. This whole time, Nepo baby paladin is there watching the whole thing go down. He sees how strong Sung really is and that he's probably not a rank E and starts calling him boss. Shortly after the boss fight, the rest of the party shows up with the gear and is surprised to see that they're still alive. The rest of the party tells Nepo baby paladin that if he kills Sung that they'll spare his life, but ultimately he chooses to side with Sung, which I feel like is really obvious. They put this scene in the show to show that he has a really good soul, and he does. You can tell he's a good person in the show, but they put it in strictly to show that he's a good person and he sides with the weak. However, he just saw Sung display a level of badassery he had not seen before. So of course he was going to sign with the guy that kicks ass, you know? So I feel like if they had included that scene before the boss was defeated solo, it would have been more impactful. But instead they chose to put it in after he had already demonstrated his strength, making the choice for Nepo Baby pretty easy and obvious, you know? Sung gets this urgent quest from the system saying he needs to defeat all of the bad guys in front of him, excluding Nepo Baby because he chose to stand by his side. The quest states that if he chooses not to do this, his heart will stop and he will die. So obviously he does. He takes one hard punch from the bad guys, has a full-blown crash out, and slaughters them all pretty brutally and quickly too. Before he kills them, he does consider the fact that he's taking a human life and that he's never done that before, but he does it anyway because it's either him or them, you know? So Sung and Nepo Baby make it out of the dungeon, and this is where Sung adopts this annoying cool guy voice.
Rewards for slaughtering people.
He keeps it for the entire rest of the show, season 1 and season 2. It's just so void of emotion or caring or anything. It's insanely monotone, especially considering the voice acting in the first couple of episodes were so good. To go from that to this is a huge letdown. And honestly, it makes him a bit unlikable. He is just coming off as better than you all of a sudden. It rubs me the wrong way. Episode 7 opens with some guild guy nobodies being suspicious about Hunter Sung's growing powers. It's now been twice where he's been one of the sole survivors from pretty fatal incidents, and so it's looking a little sus. Later, Sung gets home and brings his sister some fried chicken, and then he thinks about how he didn't feel anything at all about killing those bad guys. In fact, he resented them for thinking that they were stronger than him. So he's already starting to get this really big, inflated, better than you, stronger than you, faster than you, sexier than you ego. And it's pretty early in the show, so I find it kind of annoying, low-key. In fact, Hunter Sung has pretty much zero internal conflict for the entire rest of the show about anything. And it's just surprising because this is his first time killing somebody. He feels nothing. So at this point, I'm thinking maybe they're setting him up to be the bad guy, but it proves to not be the case thus far in the show. So I don't know what this is about, but he just thinks he's better than everyone. Later, Nepo Baby calls Sung to get some coffee. He requests help from him to start a strike team so that way he can complete 20 raids because he wants to become a guild master. Why? Honestly, it doesn't matter, but he offers him 30 billion to do these raids with him, and he initially says no, which is crazy because Sung and his sister, his mom is in the hospital or whatever, but they haven't mentioned that at all. But Sung and his sister are poor. He was previously poor, but he turns him down because he thinks that the money is beneath him and that he could probably make it to S rank and make even more money. And there's only 7 in the country thus far. Oh, here's Alphonse. Hi, Alphonse. You want to say hi to YouTube?
Release me, mother.
Hi, YouTube. He's getting way too big for his britches, and it's literally only episode 7. He turned down 30 billion won, I think, because he thinks he could get more for being an S rank. Why not just do both? A little side story that started unfolding is that one of the guys that Sung killed in the last dungeon has like an A rank brother, and he thinks that Sung is responsible, and he is. So he sets out to basically get revenge on his bro and kill Sung. Later, Sung works out double the daily quest limit, and here he unlocks a key for a secret quest for an S-rank dungeon called the Demon Castle. This place will give him ingredients for the Elixir of Life, which is a super potion that can cure any illness. He decides he's going to start going after these ingredients so that way he can save his mom who's in the hospital. All of a sudden, he's super gung-ho on saving his mom when he literally hasn't mentioned her once in the show, and it just seems like an afterthought. This would have been more impactful if he decided to level up to help his mom in the first place, but he's already set his sights on becoming an S rank just because, and so the motivation for him helping his mom seems more of like a side quest, like, oh, I'm gonna help my mom along the way, versus his main motivation and goal being to save his family. Gonna go reach out and get ya. Gonna go reach out and get ya. So after deciding he suddenly wants to help his mom, he goes into this dungeon and fights a Cerberus on the very first level. And honestly, the man gets his ass beat. One of the few times in the show where he is pretty much outmatched and outclassed in every way. He uses full recover and still gets his ass beat anyway, and so he decides he wants to return home using a teleportation stone. However, he loses it right when he decides he wants to use it, and so he's forced to stay. He opens up his store, tries to drink some potions to heal up, realizes he can't use them when he's at critical health, and so he's kind of just SOL. However, guess what he decides to do? Say it with me, everyone. Stab it in the eye. Who knew eyes were so stabbable? Which is kind of insane because he went from E rank to fighting C rank bosses to fighting S rank bosses in, I think it's like a matter of a week or two. That is so insanely fast. It just screams power fantasy anime to me. And I get it. That's what it's here for. And if that's what you like, that's what you like. But at least be more subtle about it. Like I said earlier, I just wish that there was more of a struggle in this show. I understand the power fantasy and watching him infinitely scale upwards. I get the appeal in that, but he had no business winning that yet. He shouldn't have won. They should have made it to where he could have used the teleportation stone, go train, and come back stronger. However, he won when he was fully outclassed. I just feel like there's no true, real, genuine struggle. And even when he does struggle, he doesn't suffer more than like a scratch on the cheek. It doesn't feel like the victories are earned. After beating this boss, he gets the stupid ingredient for the elixir and goes home. I just feel like that's insane because he found out about the elixir, defeated an S rank boss, and got 1/3 of the ingredients in one episode. It just really, really, really makes his mom feel like a side quest, you know, when it should have been his main motivation from the jump. Think about it. If saving his mom was his main motivation from the jump, then he has a tangible goal to achieve. And if he hits S rank along the way, great. But it just feels so arbitrary and shallow, you know? Episode 8. Sung goes and visits his mom and ponders in his cooler than you voice and thinks about the ingredients he still needs to get and decides he needs to become stronger, which was already his goal. So I don't know why he keeps repeating that. We know what you're up to, dude. That being said, this incentivizes him to accept Nepo Baby's proposal and the other 19 raids. Some boring, unnecessary guild stuff is happening on the side, and truly, genuinely, they could have fully removed guilds from the show and it would have been the same show, but there's some stuff happening on the sides. Sung gets a request for a D rank dungeon. He's annoyed because it's below him, but beggars can't be choosers. He really wants to level, and so he decides to go. More guild stuff is happening, and basically the S rank hunters all decide that they want to take back Jeju Island. And that happened at the very beginning of the show. I didn't even talk about it because it doesn't matter. But at the very beginning, some ants killed a bunch of people and they took over this island, and now it's run by ants. It's very scary. Ooh. Can we talk about the fact that the main big bad guy of the show is a bunch of ants? That is so lame. Hunter x Hunter did it better. Solo leveling could literally never.
Few minutes later.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Had to re-gloss. So Sung goes into this rank D dungeon, and here he meets up with 4 of the 5 survivors from the very first dungeon of the show, alongside some prisoners and a rep from one of the guilds who is obviously incredibly evil. You can tell just by looking at him. Episode 9. The prisoners and the party members are all fighting these goblins, and everyone's pretty impressed with how strong Sung's become since the first dungeon in the show. But nobody speaks on how he looks different, and that is so insanely wild to me. But he's not done transforming yet. Remember, he is in his Charmeleon era. Once they're inside, the team wants to split up into 3 groups. And Sung, who's all like, I'm so hot and sexy and perceptive, I know exactly where the boss room is. So his team decides to go that way. The prisoner group gets double-crossed by the obviously super evil rep, and he does it as a bribe from this random guy for 3 million won, but that is ultimately unimportant because the rep just likes killing. It's what he likes. So the evil guy gets confronted by one of the other groups, and he decides he has to kill them too because there can be no witnesses to what he's just done. Sung's group is the last to arrive to the scene, and by the time he gets there, all of the other groups have been completely wiped out. Old One Arm from the first dungeon decides he's going to fight the bad guy because he thinks Sung isn't strong enough, and he kind of feels this debt towards him and guilt towards him because he left him to die as a sacrifice in the first dungeon, and honestly, no one knows how he survived. So he feels guilty and decides he wants to fight instead. But lo and behold, the old guy gets his ass absolutely blasted, and when the bad guy goes in for the killing blow, Hunter Sung steps in and starts fighting in his stead. This is where the team decides that Sung must have reawakened because he is leagues stronger than he was just a couple of weeks ago. So Sung fights the evil guy and wins pretty easily after some back and forth. He so hard that he's able to fight him without seeing him and standing completely still. He's just that guy. He is him. And also, he uses full recovery, but he literally just uses full recovery on like a cut on the cheek. That is the most damage he ever sustains, basically ever, after the very first couple of episodes. For a moment, he does have an inkling of inner reflection, and he feels that the more he fights, the more he's beginning to lose himself. Again, this is why I was thinking that maybe they were setting him up to be the ultimate big bad guy of the show. And I haven't read the manga, so maybe they are, but I really don't see it going in that direction. But I guess we'll see. That much of the show isn't out yet, so nobody knows outside of the manga readers. And if that was the case, if he is going to end up being the ultimate evil in the show, I think that's really cool, and that's something that's not really done that often. But I just don't think that's where it's headed. I just don't. Episode 10. Episode 10 opens with the hot girl, Sui, walking around with her arms squishing her boobs like this and complaining about how strong Sung has become and about how she hasn't changed at all, so she's going to retire. Why they included this, I don't really know. This is like the third time we've ever seen her, and she's a pretty unimportant character in the show. In fact, there's only one important character, and I think that's why I don't love this show, is because Hunter Sung is so full of himself and so monotone and so uninteresting, and there's no side characters to really build him up and make the show feel interesting. So everyone's kind of flat in one note. Does that make sense? So later, Sung meets up with Nepo Baby and a strike team comprised of a bunch of people that we will literally never see again, and Sung's sister's friend who's in high school that has a crush on Sung. I don't know.
Okay, I'm confused.
Sung and Nepo Baby tell everybody that they can just stay outside and wait it out, and only those two will go inside and clear the raid. Everyone's pretty suspicious because they think there's no way they're going to be able to clear it. But after an hour or two, they walk out and the dungeon has been cleared. The portal closes. Sung walks out with his hands in his pocket, and he's so cool. And it's just, he irks me. He's not likable. The exact same voice actor does Mashal. And I love Mashal, and he has the exact same kind of monotone, uninterested vibe, but it's done well in Mashal and it's done poorly in Solo Leveling. But that's a conversation for another day. They do this for a handful of days, never struggling even a little bit and clearing dungeons with ease. This whole time, Sung is leveling up in these really weak dungeons, but because he's so strong, shouldn't leveling be harder and take more experience? Because that's how it works in literally every game. Meanwhile, guild people are continuing to get suspicious of Sung, seeing that he's the only survival of multiple cataclysmic dungeons, and they really are suspecting that he's reawakened.
There's something else. Something different.
The White Tiger Guild finds this out and tries to recruit Sung before his reawakening is discovered, but he turns them down and threatens them, so that way they won't tell people about his growing strength, which I think is so bizarre because the man's just doing his job. Chill, daddy. He literally threatened Khan and cut that guy on the face just for being like, hey, do you want to join my guild? Which is weird. Episode 11. Sung hits level 40, and here he gets a quest to potentially change his job. He agrees to do the quest, takes the instance key, and joins the instance. When he enters a dungeon, he finds out that 1, he can't leave until it's completely finished, and 2, he cannot use full recovery or any type of potions. It's a true test of skill. After discovering this, he fights a bunch of living armor, which are empty armor husks, and realizes that he can't slice through them with his sword, and so he opts to just rip them in half with his bare hands. Meanwhile, the guilds are getting ready to go to Jeju Island and fight those big scary ants. So after fighting a bunch of living armor, Sung finds a boss room, and here he sees Igris, who is actually really cool. The coolest part of this show is in the first 4 episodes and the last 2 episodes. Everything else is pretty ass. I'm sorry, it is. But Igris has a really, really cool design, and is just a cool character overall. Igris is a red knight living armor. He's faster, stronger, basically the most difficult thing he's fought thus far. And I will say, I've been hating on the show for not showing struggle, but this Igris fight, he does show struggle. He uses environment, he uses cool tricks that you don't see him use any other time. I think that's why I like it so much. Even though it's a cool fight, he does only get a scratch on the cheek, which is the most damage he ever takes ever. Let me see Zaddy lose an arm. Anyway, in this fight, he realizes he can't cut Ygritte because he's still just armor at the end of the day, and so he drops his sword, and Ygritte, who is a chivalrous lad, drops his sword as well, getting ready for a fist fight. A fist fight with armor is insane.
This is the most uncomfortable fist fight I've ever been in.
Sung gets absolutely walloped by Ygritte. I mean, Ygritte is literally better in every way. He just gets smacked down WWE style.
David's gonna get a stick face!
He is getting trashed. And I just love seeing the struggle in this fight because everything up until now has felt so unearned, but this fight feels like if he were to win somehow, some way, spoiler alert, he does because he's him, at least it feels earned. Here is the only other time outside of the first couple of episodes where Sung actually raises his voice and shows will and desire to live and win. And I really like that about it. I wish he would use more than a bye-bye Mew Master voice more than occasionally. I wish it felt like he cared. Anyway, they fight for a while and he uses this pretty cool inventory trick where he dispels his weapon and then recalls it out of his inventory, and I thought that was a really good use of that mechanic. And thanks to this trick, he actually wins. He gets this reward of Ygritte's armor, and so he equips armor for the very first time in the show, which I think is insane. I think that's insane that he's just now equipping armor in the last episodes of the show, but whatever, he wins. And this is where the system is like, JK, you're not done, good luck, and a bunch of portals open up and living armor starts spewing out. Episode 12, last episode of the season, baby. So the episode opens with him fighting this horde of living armor. He's literally fighting them with his bloodied bare fists, and he is having an emotional breakdown. He's remembering all these people calling him the weakest hunter and how weak he used to feel at the beginning of the show.
Ah, you bitch! You don't love me, and you don't get fed till you do!
During his crash out, a piece of living armor is going down for the killing blow, but here he gets a notification that he didn't do his daily quest and gets sent to the penalty zone, which is a little bit of a cop-out. So he goes to this penalty zone, he wakes up there, and it's this like big open area desert with these scorpion, centipede, monster things. And he takes those down pretty easily and decides to use this time to, one, heal back up because he's technically not in the instance dungeon anymore, and so he can use potions and whatnot, and two, to recuperate some of his exhaustion from earlier. Fighting the penalty boss actually helps him level up, and it gives him this pretty OP power that lets him manipulate objects without touching them, which pretty convenient if you ask me, but whatever. And after recuperating some and healing up, he goes right back into the dungeon. Meanwhile, the other S ranks are on their way to this very scary Jeju Island. So when Sung gets back into the instance area, he uses this new sword he got from the penalty area, which I feel like if it's a penalty, it shouldn't give rewards, right? You shouldn't be able to level up in there. You shouldn't get new weapons. That feels like a reward for a penalty area, but whatever. I don't make the rules. So anyway, he uses this new sword. He's ripping through these pieces of armor that were formerly beating him, and he realizes that the mages are the ones summoning him. So he goes and he fights these mages. After fighting the mages and taking out the rest of the armor, he actually wins the quest. Good job. Congratulations. After defeating the quest, he gets basically the most OP power that could ever be imagined ever. He gets the Necromancer class, which means anyone he defeats, he can reanimate them using a command word. He picks Arise.
Chicken, arise. Arise, chicken, arise.
And make them fight for him in his own living dead army. And they keep the exact same stats they had before. So Ygritte, for example, he walks up to him, resurrects him, and now he has this super badass Red Knight as his general. I honestly don't think he needed this power. It's called solo leveling, not solo leveling with an entire army of undead warriors behind me. Also, side note, because he finished the quest with more than 50% health from healing in the penalty area, he gets his necromancy class boosted to max without having to level it at all. Tell me that's not so OP. That's not so OP. And this is season 1, baby. So he resurrects Ygritte, he resurrects the entire armor army, and now he is just fucking him. He is so fucking strong. And that's the end of the season. I know I talked a lot about why I don't love the show through this entire video, but I'm just gonna condense it and say this.
Drum roll, please!
The main character is not likable. He's not a likable guy. He doesn't really have that much personality or really anything going for him other than the fact that he continuously gets stronger. And I think that's a cool concept. I just think it was poorly executed. The show isn't bad by any means. It's just not good.
No, I'm really disappointed in you, Diana.
You could have done so well, honey. Why didn't you apply yourself? Those are the feelings I get from the show. If they had just tweaked a little bit here, a little bit there, like if they had made the mom thing a more important factor earlier in the show, in that been his driving force to become stronger, it would have been more human, more relatable. It makes you want to cheer for him. But his goal of becoming strong was just to become strong, and it's so shallow. The show just lacks substance. It's almost good. It's so close to being good, but to me, it's just not. And if you like the show, no shame, no hate. I'm just a girl with some opinions. What do I know? But it should not be anime of the year. It just is almost good. And if you like this video, please make sure to like this video. I really want to do season 2 in a separate video because there is so much to discuss in that one as well. But anyway, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to go eat some food. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys. Be sure to drink some water. Stay safe out there. And until next time, bye.